getting into conversations around education wherever you're tuned in across our social media platforms. Across our social media platforms, we are looking at Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and on X. Our conversation this morning is with Benson Adie, who is the Senior Schools Administrator and Curriculum Implementation Expert, Kitengela International Schools. Benson, good morning.
Good morning, Odo and City.
How are you doing?
Doing quite well.
Karibu sana.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
I'm very happy that you're here with us this morning. The buzz is around education. It has been for some time, and in my opinion, it continues. It needs to continue. But before we get into that, and looking at comparing between the CBC system, which now we're all in, or the British curriculum system, which has been introduced for some time, and that now more and more people are seeing that they need to. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of it. But before that, let's welcome you in the Situation Room style. CT does some magic, and he travels and is somehow able to be here every morning after gleaning these proverbs from around the continent. It's like time travel is a thing. Anyway, he's doing the landlocked countries of Africa and bringing proverbs from there. But, I'll let him tell you what that's all about. And then you can tell us what you think about the proverb.
Okay. We are looking at proverbs from the Central African Republic. A very interesting country, very, very wealthy country in terms of minerals, in terms of natural resources. And it was once an empire. The empire didn't last long, it lasted 2 years. Then the empire ceased, but an interesting country nonetheless. The proverb, those who are born on an anthill take a short time to grow.
Wow. Very, very interesting. Those born in an anthill take the shortest time to grow. Putting it to context, I'm looking at, we are coming from different backgrounds, and some are already elevated, The anthill can elevate them to some point.
Yes.
So I'm looking at a situation whereby, if putting at a school perspective, if you are having, you understand the international curriculum, and you are born in a family that this is already acceptable, already you have an advantage over a person who is still struggling to really to understand, is it working? Can it work in Kenya? Can you enjoy our local universities and all that? So there is a leap which you have better than others. It's a true society, which naturally stratifies us. But again, when you are on that particular hill, you have so much. You have a life. You have a life somewhere.
Yeah.
You're starting it from somewhere.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Indeed.
That's a good interpretation.
You get a push.
Yeah.
I would even add, again, the schooling. You go to a school that is considered a national school, that's an anthill already.
Definitely.
Yes.
You got a good push.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're looking at reevaluating or re-examining, the education system in Kenya. These conversations have been had forever, since there was a clamor to kind of change things. We brought in a new system, went from 844, went now to CBC. 844 now is a thing of the past in Kenya. CBC is there, and we'll now see that schools will merge into, different formats as we go along. First of all, before we even now go into introducing the British curriculum, can we have an overview from in your opinion? What are we looking at in terms of reevaluation or re-examination that needs to be done when we're looking at the school system in Kenya today?
Thank you, Odo. Definitely, we have seen a transformation in our education system. You have seen the growth from 844 now to the CBC curriculum, which is actually growing very well. And of course, there are some challenges here and there, but not really something to focus on. But we can say that if you look at the CBC structure, We are more on now the competencies. We are looking at the competency-based curriculum. Remember 844, it was just about passing exams. It was exam-oriented. But here now we are looking at skills, and we are looking at lifelong learning, because that should be the intention of education, so that you are not just going to school to pass an exam, but how is that education or that knowledge you are acquiring helping you to actually fit in the society? CBC is actually actualizing this through the competencies. That is collaboration. They are very keen on problem solving. They are also very keen on digital literacy, as you are aware how that department is really growing. And also focusing on the STEM. I think this is something which we were not seeing in 844 earlier. So there is a huge shift. And also the parental involvement is actually scaled, not like the 844 where you are given work, do it, and that is all. The parents might not be really engaged in what you are doing, the students are doing. But now, it is a requirement that they are getting to be engaged in the process as well.
Okay, so let's obviously you're not floating. You are from an institution that practices both of these. Maybe coming back to that, before we now go, tell us a little bit about Kitengela International Schools. Heard of it, but then how exactly do you work? Tell us a little bit more about the institution.
Yeah, Kitengela International School is a school offering both British International Curriculum and also the Kenyan curriculum, the CBC. Then we have a number of schools. That is, we have one in Kitengela, we have others in Sokimau, and also at the river. Actually, we have a total of 6 schools. So in Kitengela International School, we are very keen on technology and ensuring that we have smart classes. If you look at our classes, all of them are smart, so that this digital literacy we are talking about, when you get to Kitengela International School, you actually realize it. And if you are aware that it was the ministry considered Kitengela International as one of the schools which have achieved the intended structure of CBC in terms of STEM. So this is what Kitengela offers, and also we are not only focusing on the academic aspect, but we are keen on extracurricular. We have a very huge space which gives our students opportunity to get engaged in extracurricular. Remember, just the other day also just concluded the national drum festivals, music festivals. We also did so well. The performance was quite outstanding on some of the items which we presented. So when you come to Kitengela, you are getting everything under one roof. There is the academic aspect, there is the development aspect, and also the confidence of the learners. Our learners are very confident, and that is what we encourage and we motivate. And our teachers are also aligned to support that structure.
From what you've observed, what would make parents choose the British curriculum as opposed to the Kenyan system?
Yeah, to answer that, City, maybe I give a quick overview of the British curriculum so that it can help our listeners to make decisions. Number one, if you look at the structure of the British International Curriculum, it is structured in key stages. Sometimes we use the word KS to refer to that, to key stage. So we have the key stage. We have the key stage 1. The key stage 1, we are looking at learners of around 5-6 years. Then we have key stage 2, learners of around 6 to 11 years. Then we have key stage 3, that is secondary, lower secondary, that is 7, 8, and 9. In terms of age, they will be around 11 early arrivals or 12 to 13. Then we have the key stage 4, which is now the IGCSE curriculum, that is the 10 and 11. Then there will be a culmination of that stage by doing a certain assessment, which I know we'll look at later. Then now you proceed. After GCSE, you proceed to A levels, year 12 and 13. Now, if you look at that particular structure and the structure of the CBC, the structure of CBC, it is 2633. So it is not really, they use the word grade, grade 1, grade 2, all the way. But the other side, we use British international curriculum, we use key stages. This CBC curriculum is benchmarked on the British, the CBC curriculum is benchmarked on Cambridge, or sometimes used interchangeably as in international British curriculum. So if you look at the approach, the teaching approach, here you realize that, yes, the CBC is not putting a lot of stakes on exams, but again, the international curriculum is doing that because they are very keen that as long as every aspect, as long as you are very active in extracurricular activities, that is appreciated. But again, the academic part is not left behind. So it is still competitive for you to transition to higher institutions of higher learning. So that is a shift. But again, if you look at the resourcing of the international curriculum, it is highly resourced because for you to deliver the curriculum, there are specific requirements which a school must achieve for you even to get an approval. Okay. Because if you don't have that, you cannot be approved by the Cambridge or the exam bodies.
What are some of those
yes,
that you must meet?
Yeah, for example, if you look at how to manage behavior, there must be a policy clearly outlined, and not just having a policy. There must be an evidence that you've been following that policy in managing the students' behavior. That evidence-based is very important. Then you must ensure that you are aligned with the key values or the key pillars of the international education, ensuring that you have a confident learner, you have a responsible learner, you have a learner who is innovative and reflective. So it's not just going to class and teaching them and giving them, pumping them with a lot of knowledge, but there must be an evidence that beyond the classroom, they are out, they can, there are programs where they are interacting with other schools within or outside the country. They are digitally aligned, they understand that. So, and also, even the labs, there are specifications on how they must look like. So you cannot just say that I have this facility here and it can be used as a laboratory. They must come, check, and then give you that go ahead to offer this particular program.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. What would you say is the distinct difference between the two? And would you say that from what you've seen, one has a leg up over the other?
Yes, it can be put so, because if you look at the British international curriculum, remember it has been there for a very long time, and they keep on reviewing it because to improve it depending on the needs of the society. The CBC, I know, is very new. When it was launched, I think in 2017. Yep. So it's still really having some teething problem, which I know the government and the new minister is actually working so hard to align to ensure that it really delivers on the promise which was given. So the clear cut is how the pedagogy, how it is delivered. For example, in British curriculum, we have the project-based learning. I know this one is also stemmed to the CBC, but the way it is being administered. So we ask ourselves how the teachers have been prepared, the CBC teachers are prepared to really deliver on this curriculum. So in terms of training, I think there is something that CBC is still going to work on, and I'm happy that there is a lot of training. For example, right now, a lot of training going on by the ministry, by the stakeholders. So yes, at one point, it will reach there. It is a journey. But the other one is already solid, and the progression is very clear, how you are progressing in British International Curriculum. You've seen from Key Stage 1, you move to Key Stage 2, you move to Key Stage, and there is no conflict.
Is there conflict with CBC? Can't you say that? I mean, if you went from grade, because now it's graded, yes. So if you went from grade 1 to grade 2, they are taking an assessment, and maybe you can give us a little bit more insight into this. Is that it's assessment of the stages that you've reached with CBC as well, whereby you do projects. I mean, when it all started, we were all complaining. Okay, we have to print this, gather this, collect this, but isn't that what they're essentially evaluating? That as you do these projects over time and as you do the exams, that it's all a collation of the different, essentially marks that you've gotten, and that then gives you. That's why we move from pass or fail to approaching expectations, meeting expectations, exceeding expectations. That's why all of that language changed, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, and I think that is where the conversation is. When we are talking about approaching expectations based on what criteria, the criteria. I know it is something which is still being aligned, and when you're saying that exceeding to what level, so the conflict, the discussion is still there in terms of. You have seen even the merging of subjects where they have not been. It's not very clear. Is this what we are going to offer, or is there a need for us to combine this subject with this other one? So, but when you come to the British International Curriculum, I think it's very clear. For example, if we have the core subjects, we have mathematics, we have English, we have science. Then now we have other subsidiaries, other subjects which you can do, like geography, like history. It's very, very okay with that. But I think right now, even in terms of when the KICD is developing the curriculum designs, you find that the design is ready, but again, when they are trying to implement it, there is a challenge. They take it back again, maybe to review and improve it. But that is a normal process that maybe a curriculum should go through,
Okay, can I ask you a question based on that? Because some of the merging that you're talking about, for example, agriculture and home science, they used to be separate subjects, but now have been combined, integrated into agriculture and nutrition. Right, so that becomes one subject area, but it's like two subjects under it. Then now you have art and crafts, music and physical education. So you have the ACM and the AGM that have all been made and now referred to as creative arts. With the combination of that, wasn't the sole reason, wasn't the sole reason so that you don't have this heavy burden of subjects on these students? Because essentially we're talking about grade 4 to 6 now that are taking this particular subject. And does it have a different bearing on what is taught? Even though you have a combination area, don't you still have teaching in each particular subject area?
Very interesting, because you realize that you have put agriculture and home science together, or you now call it nutrition.
Yes.
But remember, the teacher, you might be having just a teacher who is trained on agriculture.
Right.
And not having skills on home science. How is that teacher going to deliver maybe on that particular subject area? I'm skilled in art, but again you are giving me music. You are putting them together as maybe performing
and
art.
Physical education.
Yeah. Maybe I'm trained on physical education, maybe from Kenyatta University. Now you just imagine, how am I going to teach physical education? And you remember, physical education is very key for those people who are keen on physical, on doing the sports science. So you want to pursue sports science as a career, but then here the person who is training you maybe is not having information at all on that particular area. So already that one disadvantage this particular kind of a learner, and you may lose interest in that particular subject area. Yes, there is a challenge.
Even as I look at the discussion that is around the comparison. You're talking about a curriculum that is, 30 years old compared to ours, and the need to constantly change it. I mean, from the position of someone like you who's an educationist, is it really necessary to keep changing this curriculum of ours? Does it really serve a purpose?
Yeah, it does, because, as the world advances, it comes up with different needs. And the job market changes. And therefore, you must keep on evaluating your curriculum. Is it really serving the purpose? For example, what are the main key things that we want to address, that we want our education to address? So if you realize, if you check on that, we question that, and we realize that, there is a gap somewhere in terms of maybe some of the jobs which were offered so many years back are no longer there, then it is important for us to review our curriculum. So yes, because even the British curriculum we are talking about, actually they keep on reviewing it.
Yes.
3 years, after 3 years, sometimes 2 years, they keep on reviewing it.
But do we review ours really? Ours an overhaul. I mean, just sincerely think.
Yes.
844 was an overhaul. Books change, everything changes. CBC. I'm asking this because what you say is true. You do need to tailor make your curriculum to suit your needs. But do we have to make these huge changes? Because ours, as I said, is like you're starting from scratch, and yet it's like arguing that some of the core subjects that we have taught before, we also know that even with the subject matter, there are things you need to change within the curriculum, again, to meet the needs of the time. But ours isn't just changing. That's why we give it even a different name. You give it 844, changed. We CBC now. CBC is even a bigger overhaul, because even the focus and the emphasis is completely different from anything we've had before. There's certain elements that were in the 844, but you see, that's where the challenge comes in. The challenges came in with matters of resources. But then the 844 system on paper was an excellent system. Believe me, it was excellent. I know because I was a teacher then.
Right.
Okay? The CBC on paper is an excellent system. But again, whatever bedeviled the 844 is likely to bedevil it. It's called resources. Human resource, first of all, and then material resource that you will need to make sure that it actually works. It is against this background that I asked, are these overwhelming changes absolutely necessary? Because in my mind, it seems to derail and destabilize the education system. That is how I see it.
Yeah, and actually, if you look at, you see, when you are overhauling the entire education system, it becomes very expensive, costly.
Yes.
And that is why you are seeing a lot of struggle in terms of teacher training, materials, publishing materials, learning materials. It is really costly. But I think want to believe that the government did the due diligence in terms of analyzing the needs. And this is some things maybe it was very important. If it was just rolled out slowly by slowly and really being examined in terms of the cost effects, I think it would have informed the way it was supposed to be rolled out, rather than just saying that you are rolling it from PP1 all the year all the way to the other side. So, but City, we are here.
I am aware we are here, and I'm being a revisionist for one reason.
Yes.
So that we don't keep doing this to those who are supposed to be learning. The previous system may have had things that required changing, but it didn't need a complete overhaul. It did not. Yeah. That is really my point. It did not. Because when we talk about comparing the British system and what we then have, perhaps one of the reasons why people are preferring the British system is because it is stabler.
Very stable, yes. Exactly.
You know, it has international recognition. That's what time does for a certain curriculum. When you introduce a new curriculum, there is always the question of, okay, does it meet international standards? It may meet, but does it? It's a question. The system that we had before was already accepted. We knew the 844 meets international, and our students who've gone abroad have done us proud. It's clear it works. Now, you change it, you start that journey again. Because the people who are out there don't know it. If we are trying to figure it out and to see how best it's going to work, what do you think those who are out there, because it's a global economy.
Indeed it is. So then, Benson, do you see that, even with the change of the curriculum, that you basically had to do what City saying, to backtrack? You have to now, you basically start from number one. And a point that you raised is that with an internationally recognized system, that you didn't start all over again.
No.
You improved as you went along.
Yes,
you said,
yes.
okay, well, we see that this might be an issue. We're going to remain within the same foundation, but we're going to tweak things here and there to make sure that it gets better. So with that, did we actually see that we've had to regress as opposed to progress?
Actually, stability in the curriculum is very critical. It's very important. And that is why this British international curriculum is acclaimed. You know, it's really welcomed by so many, over 10,000 schools and 160 countries. That's huge. But just as City put it, you know, already we were somewhere. So it's like we are beginning our story again.
Yes, we are.
We are beginning our story. So it will take time to convince the globe, you know, all other regions that we are doing the right thing. But again, I think with maybe with what is happening now, because we are exporting our people to other countries, maybe they will also create an impact very soon, City, so that they can recognize.
I do agree. You see, look at our university education. Yeah. We do tinker with courses. You look at a course that was there before, you rename it, you get it, but it meets the needs of the time. Even courses that are considered standard, whether it is education, whether it is engineering, they're still tweaked because there are things. We knew of electrical engineering, then came electronic engineering. Now you have digital engineering. These things keep coming up. But those courses that existed before didn't go anywhere. All they did was tweak it so that it meets the needs of the time. So when it comes to then institutions of higher learning, we are equal to the task even internationally because we are doing what everybody else does. But then when we come lower down, we seem to be disadvantaging our students. Because when it is new, even the students everybody has to adjust to it. And to get to the point where it becomes normalized, it takes time. And in that process, a lot is lost.
Yeah, exactly. And we just need to ensure that maybe with the new minister, you know, there is a conversation going on, and I know it's going to take the feedback so seriously as well, in terms of is there so much that we can borrow to, because it's still being enriched.
Yes.
It's still being enriched. So the opinion is quite very valid in terms of, is there something that, for example, when you are talking about home science, there was home science somewhere. Yep. When you are talking of music, there was music somewhere.
There was.
So what happened along the way? So yes, it's a good thing in terms of competency, in terms of really getting students involved in these processes. Yes, it is doing a good thing. A lot of engagement now, and they can do activities. You are really working on the values. But still, yes, we need to stabilize it. Maybe moving forward, before we now review and overhaul the entire CBC at one particular point,
yes,
because the cost will still be high.
Oh my goodness!
It can be enriched, kind of, so that the way the international curricula is actually doing, enriching it yearly.
Do we find that there are folks who are opting then for the British curriculum system because of these things that we've talked about?
Yes, we've seen a huge actually shift. Yeah, we have seen so many parents now moving. Remember, the international curriculum has been a preserve for the elite, and we were not seeing most middle class really getting in and all that. But from 2017, I think when the CBC was rolled, we have seen so many coming in, joining, which is a good thing. All this, you know, all this education, we are all trying to really improve and upscale the student. So that is our interest. So if you choose the international curriculum, the CBC or the CBC, yes, there is something you achieve. But then we have seen growth. Even outside, we have seen so many schools coming up, international schools now coming up. Where were they so many years back? Where were they? There were very few international schools known. You could mention them. This, and that.
There were actually even private schools at a time when the schools to go to were the public schools.
Yeah.
And the people went to public schools. Very few people actually bothered to go to the private school. There weren't many. International schools were even fewer. And the reason, again, the stability of that particular curriculum, because it afforded you the very same thing that so-called international school could afford you.
So we are not saying, and I think that's the thing that people say, okay, so the way we took 844 and, dumped it out the window, we're not saying now that you take this new curriculum and chuck it out the window as well. But what are things that actually can be improved or can be reevaluated, re-examined about this? Because it's been with us now for the last 5 or so odd years, 6, 7, and now we're looking at a greater implementation, because we started off with just a few classes and then I've started to move up, whereby last year we had the last class 8, right? And then for this in the next 2 years will be the last form 4 of that's 2027. So what are we saying that can be re-looked at, re-evaluated, and say, okay, let's see how we can make it a little bit better? Is that a long enough period to say that it has been given a chance to punch above its weight? Has it really been given an opportunity to show what it can really do before we now start saying, okay, well, let's look at it a little bit more and see where we can improve? We've talked about, a British system that has been around for yonks. And now we are saying 7 years into a new curriculum for Kenya, is it necessary to give it an opportunity to see what it can bear, or say, no, even now, something needs to be done about it?
Yeah, great. I think it's very important for us to give CBC a chance. It's a good move. And I'll give an example of schools like Kitengela International School. You realize that we create a whole week, whereby students showcase what they have in STEM. And we invite parents, not only our parents, even people from different areas, to come and see what it means to implement the CBC program. And our teachers have been trained in understanding that. So we also have what we call the Diversity Week, Entrepreneurship Week. So they come and see actually what the intention, the promise. This is what the CBC promised, and this is how it is supposed to be delivered. So we must give it a chance. There is still learning taking place. And you remember, even at the teachers training colleges, they just introduced the new curriculum, trying to align the teachers coming out to this. And this is happening even at our universities. So yes, it is important that we give it a chance. It's too early for us to say that, no. But again, we are insisting that as we are giving it a chance, we want it to be stable. For example, when you are talking about digital literacy, how do we equip our schools to offer that? And not only the schools in urban centers. Think about the schools in rural areas, deeper areas, like even in the northern, the Marsabit, the Turkana regions, and even other areas as well. So that whatever student is getting in Nairobi, a student somewhere in Marsabit can as well achieve, so that you don't only advantage the ones who can, access. You tell them, go and print this. Maybe there's no printer, there is no power. Thank God now the last mile is really expanding. Maybe we'll benefit so many schools.
So it's a big issue. It's a resource issue, isn't it?
Really?
That when we look at this curriculum, when it's going to test competencies, that there's certain things that you need to then employ to ensure that you can actually do that. Because now you open up the bin, isn't it? That so many things now, if like you say, digital, that means that there's certain things that you're going to have. You're going to have connectivity. You have to be within the walls of a classroom. You need to have internet. You need to have, if we're testing you physical education and saying swimming, my goodness, you must be within close proximity to a swimming pool or at least have one, whereby we are still dealing with schools that don't have some of these amenities. How can we deliver a curriculum without the resources that are required to do so? And can you really say that a curriculum is being delivered if you don't have an equilibrium of this delivery of resources across board?
And, that's the challenge we have. And maybe the other time I saw some students really swimming in the dust. They were being taught some skills in swimming, the butterfly, the free styles and all that. And this was happening on a ground with a bit of stones here and there. So definitely I feel that it's not being fair maybe to some of these schools. But again, there is a way, there is collaboration. For example, if you look at our space where we are, we've allowed schools, the nearby schools, the schools in Kajiado, the ones which are not having swimming pools, we have a swimming pool. They can come. Yes, and learn this particular skill. And we support them. Kitengela School will support them in realizing that. We have a very expansive field. They can come and try this. We talk of basketball. They can, they can try this. So I think there should be some schools, within these particular regions. The government should be very intentional in upgrading the systems of these particular schools, so that it doesn't become just a school thing. It's given a government approach, so that these students can be taken to this particular, they can have a program, a schedule. That one at least will scale them. We might not realize it at 100%, but will not be at 10%. So there will be some progress within that particular area. So we really need to have these schools, specific schools, to help in achieving this promise that the government is actually trying to work on. Yeah, and maybe if you look at it, I've seen, I've benchmarked with some schools outside the country. For example, I visited some schools in Moscow just to see how they are working. We have some schools, like we call them the gymnasiums, whereby the government is really investing in these particular schools, improving their facilities so that they can handle some kind of students.
Yes.
So from the grassroots, there is a competition that by the end of the day, I am keen on STEM. I want to be in that particular school.
Sure.
So schools like MSU or Rakus University, you see, they are really working so much. And corporations are also coming in to support, not only the government. We have foundations like Melnichenko. They are really investing in that education, in that STEM, so that there can be progress. And the students will be competing to join this. The corporations are investing in them. So it's a concerted effort rather than just leaving it for one unit to run it. It might not achieve much.
I think that's interesting that you say that, because even going into a new system, and maybe also you could look at like a buddy system, just like you're saying, Kitengela International has access to these amenities because provided that. But then you can have a buddy system whereby other schools in the area will then be able to pick up on that until you're able to develop. Wouldn't that be something that you could actually map out and say, look, we are trying to deliver this. Let us start in this way where we can have a buddy up system. But that's something that would need to come directly from the ministry, as it were, isn't it?
Exactly. Because you'll realize that, you see, we have zones.
Yeah.
You realize that maybe a zone is having 30 schools or 35 schools. You can identify schools of excellence. You see, the ministry is being intentional to this to support these particular schools. So within these 35 schools, there might be sub-counties, different sub-counties, and in every sub-county, you have that model school that really helps in achieving what the government intends. And that one will also help the teachers to understand that when I'm talking about this geography, how is it supposed to be delivered? You have a model school. Here, I'm telling you, I want you to deliver on physical education. But then there is no observation, there is no collaboration with any other body so that you can work. So the collaboration must be enhanced, even at the ministry level. And they must also work with the private schools as well. So the private schools can as well contribute, because students are not private. The schools might be private, but the children belong to the country. So we'll be happy to have them coming in also, just to see, to benchmark on how we are doing it. So best practices. That is how you grow. Slowly by slowly, we'll be there.
What role do you think education officers play here? Because, education officers, by dint of law, have seconded by, the ministry and said, every now and then you need to check, assess. Quality assessment in terms of a new curriculum also is just as important. Can that role be enhanced? Do you think that it can actually make it better?
It can be enhanced. Look at, if you look at how maybe the former education minister sometimes used to go to schools to check what is going on. You can remember at one point asking, where is the Kiswahili teacher in this particular place? Where is the so-and-so teacher this? But you say, how many schools will the minister visit? So the role of these officers, educational officers, at the quality assurance officers, is quite critical, in visiting the local schools and ensuring that. But they should also understand, because they are officers, they are understanding the process, they are understanding the curriculum, and they are understanding the methodology, which should be used in delivering that particular curriculum. So they must be intentional in terms of maybe have a map, for example, in 1 week or 2 weeks at the beginning of the term.
Yes.
How many? We are starting a new academic year. How many schools am I supposed to visit? And have I identified some of the schools as within my sub-county that we can really use as model schools?
Yeah.
That one will help a lot. But of course, we are not expecting them just to be in the office. We want them to be in the field and move around, so that they can also give proper guidance or feedback to the ministry and even the stakeholders that, based on what the information that we have collected, there is a gap here. Gap based on evidence, not theory.
Yes.
Yes. That one will help a lot.
At Kitengela,
Yes.
you offer both systems. For teachers, for practitioners, which have you seen with its, I'm sure there are challenges across board, but which has been navigable in being able to then deliver an education?
I'll say in all we have managed to navigate comfortably. It's because of the input, what we are putting in every section. For example, right now we know for the British International Curriculum, we know when you start your early years, you do it all the way to year 11. That is not all.
Okay.
That is not enough. So we have an A-level campus, which now enables you to grow,
right,
to the next level. So that after A-level, now you are ripe for the university, for that transition.
Yep.
And we have teachers just specifically handling that. So we don't mix this teacher coming for teaching CBC and at the same time teaching international curriculum.
So
no,
it's not mixing.
Clear separation between the two.
Okay.
And then now we have our the CBC teachers, and we invest in them. We also partner with a number of organizations beyond the borders, so that because there are places where this has worked, what are some of the things that they did right, and I think this is something we are doing for our teachers. So it has helped us a lot to navigate.
Fantastic.
It becomes a challenge for schools, especially if you don't have the right manpower, you can't sustain those teachers in those particular places. So you keep on fumbling all the time. So we're happy that Kitengela International School is achieving this and is navigating it well across.
Fantastic, and thank you for being part of this conversation this morning. Of course, it's a work in progress, continuing to see how we can actually deliver the best of education to children around the country. Benson Adie has been our guest this hour. He's a senior school administrator and curriculum implementation expert at Kitengela International Schools. Thank you for helping us also as we close out this conversation for this morning. The Situation Room is back tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. God willing. Have a wonderful day.